The following is a DW Ancient Egypt production. Some of the most exceptional building projects were started during Seti I's reign. At Karnak, he began construction of the great Hypostyle Hall in the Temple of Amun. This was to be completed by his son. Hypostyle means supports a ceiling. One of the wonders of ancient architecture and planning, the hall covers an area of 335 by 174 feet. It has 134 gigantic columns, of which the inner 12, slightly higher than the outer rows at 75 feet high, had overstory lighting via stone grills through which light entered the hall. These columns are so massive that 100 men can stand on the top of one. Temples were usually off limits to the common people. You might be able to go to the temple during festival days, but you'd most likely only be able to enter the open courtyard at best. Here the priests would carry out the statue of the god where the people might be able to see it, depending on the amount of people attending. Large temples had an enclosure wall that protected the temple from trespassers. Between the temple area and the enclosure wall was where the priests actually lived and where the temple workshops were located. Temples had four main areas. The first was the pylon, the gate where the king could post all the great deeds he had done. The second was the open courtyard, the large open area sometimes available for commoners. The third was the enclosed courtyard with a ceiling, causing the temple to become darker. Then finally was the Holy of Holies, where the statue was kept. This statue was considered the actual god, not just a statue, but the deity itself. These statues were usually bronze, sometimes gold, which were kept in a little shrine with doors that opened and closed. Only the high priests were allowed into the Holy of Holies where the god lived. There were rituals usually twice a day where the priests would open the doors, say some prayers, and place some food before the god. They would also put cosmetics on the eyes and use some perfumes. Priests only wore white linen, usually white linen robes, which were made from the fox plant. Cotton was not available in Egypt. The high priest could wear a leopard skin, like the sandal bearer on the Narmer pallet. The workshops between the temple and the enclosure wall was where the priests wove the linen. Do not think of these priests as holy people who had a higher calling. This was not the Roman Catholic Church. Priests in ancient Egypt were not people dedicated to one god in a religious sense. Originally, in the early days of ancient Egypt, the pharaoh himself would go up and down the Nile performing all the ceremonies. He was considered the god on earth. However, as the country grew, he needed stand-ins to go about saying the various prayers and performing the different ceremonies. Thus, the Egyptian priesthood was born. Men who were basically stand-ins for the pharaoh in order to perform various ceremonies. The people were professionals, like actors, standing in for the pharaoh, who was really the only person connected to the gods. The priests didn't have any real convictions. They were not spiritual or spiritually connected to the specific god. Bob Breyer remarks, "They were just ordinary people doing a job, a really good one."